Well, okay. Well, I guess we can get going. So first off, yeah, you welcome. Good evening. I really appreciate Dennis you being a part of this. This is like I was just saying a second ago. I've had so many people since the announcement of the Easter Seals merger asking, all sorts of questions. I'm going. I don't think anyone really knows 100% yet. So stay calm. Trust in the system and whatnot. So. I really do appreciate coming here today. I think it's going to set a lot of people's mind at ease. Like I did say, this is being recorded, so any members that miss out will be able to circulate this via Facebook, email, and our YouTube channel, which I'm still pointing people to for the electronic membership sign up. There's a great quick video that I made that just helps people walk through that, but we'll get there. So I'm going to skip over the approval of the minutes because I think we'll just do that by email anyway, just based on the number of folks that are not here. In the first real agenda item I want to go over, and we talked about this in our last meeting, was reassessing the mission statement. So through email, the board had kind of brainstormed a few different ideas, and I'm going to be sending out an electronic poll for all membership to decide, because I think that it's really important that everybody has a voice in this and not just 5 or 6 of us on the board for it. So I did send this out in the agenda, so I'll go over these really quick. So the first one we have down here is to protect and enhance services and supports for those in Michigan with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families by mobilizing the advocacy of our members and the generosity of our donors. The next one we have as an option is to protect and enhance services and supports for those in Michigan with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families by mobilizing the advocacy of our membership and the generosity of our donors. AMORC is a group of people served, parents, families, and allies working together to ensure individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities have equity in their lives. That was kind of both a mission statement and kind of an objective too, I guess, mixed in there. And my personal favorite is the last one we have here is AMORC is a group of people who consist of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, parents, family members, and allies whose allies whose mission is to protect and enhance services and supports received through awareness, advocacy, and inclusion. So I will put those out there into a poll. We can get membership feedback and then officially adopt a new mission statement, kind of following more in line with what I've been talking about since taking over the reins for John, which has been making it less of an exclusive thing to MORC folks receiving services and more of a broad group for anyone in Michigan receiving services themselves, family members, or just allies in the field. And that kind of goes hand in hand again, I think, with the big shift in things coming up, which would be the MORC merger with Easter Seals. And we had discussed previously about a name change. And again, to get away from the geographical lockdown, but we obviously don't want to lose the history at all. That's the thing that's making me gravitate towards keeping the name, but I think that this transition period really is a clean-cut way to kind of reestablish ourselves as a very active advocacy group, kind of nixing the geographical element and adopting a new mission statement to be more inclusive to everyone throughout the state. So those will go out, and with that, to get as much time as we possibly can with Dennis, I do want to thank you again for coming. Dennis is the executive director of MORC. I don't think that's a mystery to anyone here, but I will hand the floor over to you, Dennis, to kind of fill us in on what's been going on your end. Thanks again.
Thanks, Zach. I think most of you know, I've got, last December represented my 45th year with MORC. So I've been continuously employed by MORC, probably to the chagrin of some, for that period of time. And along with that, obviously, is my commitment to folks with disabilities and their families. So, I think that from the standpoint of where I'm coming from anyways, in terms of this whole merger, I want to contextualize it that way, that it really comes from a space that, I wanted to help propel the organization into the future, really. To be honest with you. So we've got a great history and a great past but this is a question of like, how does the organization, we're coming up on our 50th year this year, this September. How do we propel the mission really of the organization into for the next 50 years, right? We have, Brent Worth and I have a long relationship. Brent was our contract manager at Oakland County CMH many years ago. So we've known each other for a long time, and we kind of just started talking casually about what would it be like, or where could we, for both organizations. I mean, his organization in 2020 just celebrated their 100th anniversary. So, these are two long-term, community-based organizations that really have demonstrated a commitment, to serving folks, and so that's been a really, critical piece to both of us. So it started as a real kind of casual conversation and a lot of what ifs, and the more we thought about it, the more alike we seem to be in terms of our thinking and where we wanted things to go. So that was the genesis of it. We really started getting serious about it probably, I'd say, a year and a half ago, maybe, where we really started talking to our boards and saying, hey, listen, we want to undertake this as a serious consideration, and what do you think, and what needs to be done in the meantime. So both boards said, yeah, it's worth an exploration. We hired a company, Cohen & Company, which is a large accounting firm, to conduct a due diligence to just see if there's a, wait, are there things we're not seeing? Are there things that we should be concerned about? That work was completed, kind of end of summer this year, beginning in the fall, and that really turned out to be turned out actually to be not surprising, because they really said, hey, these are two organizations that, first of all, are in really strong positions. I mean, a lot of times when you talk about mergers, it's because one or the other partner in the endeavor is in financial straits, quite frankly. And most mergers that people are familiar with are mergers of, that involve for-profit corporations, which I'm getting an education on mergers and acquisitions, by the way. Not that I was looking for that, but I am getting one. And most for-profit mergers, I mean, it's kind of an arithmetic problem. Like, this will make sense if one company benefits, and is advantage to the other, or if the stockholders are advantaged or something like that. And it's pretty straightforward. When you're talking about nonprofit mergers, again, the whole thing is mission. We don't have shareholders. It's not like anybody's going to get rich off of a merger. What we have is a commitment to mission, and so the only reason to undertake a consideration of a merger is, if you're not in financial straits, then it's to strengthen the mission. So that's where we're coming from. MORC, I can tell you, is in the strongest financial position it has ever been in. We are have over $20 million in earned net margin, which is the equivalent of profit. If we were for profit, that would be where we're sitting. So it is really as strong as it's ever been. Easter Seals, on the other hand, just last year, and you probably saw this in the news, got a Mackenzie Scott grant, an unsolicited, unrestricted grant of $15 million. That was given to this mission. So again, same thing, super strong financially. So either of us can survive, would survive without the other. So that, but it still comes back to that question of, like, are there things we can learn from each other? Could our combined staff, could that create more opportunities for people? And most importantly, can the mission be strengthened? And that really is still the question that we're continuing to ask ourselves and challenge ourselves on every single day. So I can tell you, and I'll give you just a real quick summary of kind of the mechanics of it and where it sits right now. One of the first things we did after our boards signed, it's referred to as a letter of intent. It's non-binding, it's not legally binding, but both boards signed a letter of intent in December. We made the announcement in the paper. Zach knows he's one of the first people I called because AMORC is critically important to us, and his influential in shaping our mission. So important to involve AMORC in any of these discussions. We then hired what are referred to as an integration manager. We hired a small firm and kind of a boutique firm. The firm is called Vlasic and Roth. And yes, it is Vlasic, as in the Vlasic pickle people. He's related, but don't hold that against him. He's an emergency room physician by training, and kind of like got to a point where he said, look, I realize as an emergency room physician, I'm coming in when the problem has already happened, right? The injury has already occurred, the problem's already occurred. I want to be on the other side of that. I want to be driven and motivated by how can I prevent things from happening? How can I make things better? So that really resonated with us. Obviously, that's kind of where we live, and so their methodology and processes, they are very, very focused on the culture of the organizations. That's, they keep telling us, look, the mechanics are going to take care of themselves. You don't have to worry about that stuff. There are accountants and lawyers who will get the right forms in front of you and do those sorts of things. But what we really need to talk about and put our energy into is making sure that the people, which is really everything. MORC doesn't deliver a service without the people, right? So we want to make sure that the people are properly cared for, informed, and that they have a voice in the process. And that's all great, right? Except that it does create this kind of like, wait a minute, in most mergers, the CEOs would sit together, they'd line out how this is going to go, and boom, set out a timeline, it would be done by now. What Jeff keeps telling us is, look, this is slow on purpose. We want it to be slow on purpose. So we're trying to involve people from the ground up to inform the process, to give us direction on this. And it is. It's kind of, sometimes there are times I was talking to folks on Friday. It's like where I'm like, how come this isn't further along right now? But again, we don't want to rush it. We'd rather take a few extra weeks here and make sure that we got everybody's, is feeling good about it, that we take everybody's temperature and make sure that it feels good. Having said that, there are all kinds of things that come up every single day that nobody had thought of. And again, it's this was nothing I've ever done before. It's nothing Brent's ever done before. But we really are kind of in this rebuild the plane while you're flying it, kind of a situation. There is the next formal step in this process is something that has been, it's been retitled 3 or 4 times now. So I think it's, we called it a definitive agreement. We called it a merger agreement. We've called it a collaboration agreement. We've called it a collaboration and merger agreement. But anyways, it is something that the boards, will have to agree to, and that will commit us formally to working on this. So we'll be legally bound. So the letter of intent is a non-binding. The merger agreement, definitive agreement, whatever it's being called, will actually bind the 2 organizations to work together. It passed the Easter Seals board last Thursday. It is going before the MORC board tomorrow in a special session. It is a pretty dry read. There's nothing exciting in there except for the things that we put in there that we think are important. So, for example, one of the things that's in our definitive agreement that you probably aren't going to see in most agreements of its nature is something called a heritage statement. Again, reflecting on the fact that both MORC and Easter Seals Michigan come with a strong, community-based, legacy that we want to make sure that we build off of. However, we also want to say, look, this is an opportunity to create something new, and that's what we want to do. So our merger consultant, Jeff Lassick, says to us all the time, look, your challenge here is to take 1 + 1 and make it equal 3. So that's kind of what's in front of us right now, is to really, kind of, and some of that's still right until we actually get things on the road. People aren't going to be able to see it, touch it, and know that that's working. I will tell you this: we've started to have, meetings and interactions among, MORC and Easter Seals staff, and they're kind of amazing. I mean, more than, I expect them to be like kind of a middle school dance, like we're boys on one side, girls on the other side, and nobody talks to each other. It's not that. It's the complete opposite. People are walking into a room, never having laid eyes on each other, and saying, "Oh my God, you're so and so, and you do this, and let me tell you what I do." And it's just been such a natural process. We had one of our longtime supports coordinators, and she was very honest, and she said, "Listen," she said, "I hate change. I'll just tell you that I hate change." She said, "But I was sitting next to my Easter Seals colleague, and I was saying, yeah, I've got 5 folks on my caseload right now that are, in some process needing psychiatric care, and I wish that we had more resources." And her colleague said, "Oh my God, I've got 3 people on my caseload that have intellectual disabilities in addition to their behavioral health issues, and I'm just lost. I don't know what I should be doing with them." And right there, it was kind of like the light bulbs went off. My God, if we're working together on the same team in the same organization, these problems, don't go away, but at least the answers are right in front of us, right? And we can lean on each other that way. And I ultimately think, and would hope for the fact that this is something that really we're families are going to start to feel this, and they're going to start to say, "Hey, it was, it's better." People, we're all complicated, right? We're all complicated individuals, and those complications mean that from depending on the day, our needs are going to change, and you really, to be in a situation where you can kind of more seamlessly, migrate from one set of care standards to another, is really what our goal here is, and to really push this thing forward. I will tell you this: since we have made the announcement, both Brent and I have been, in contact with CEOs of other nonprofit corporations, and universally the kind of response is, why didn't I think of this? Why didn't I think of finding a like-minded partner and joining, our resources together? And so I hope that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, people are like, yeah, that was a no-brainer. I don't know why somebody didn't do that sooner. I don't know, and none of us knows, and there's vagaries in financing and vagaries in legislation that we have yet to play out. So we don't know what the future is going to hold. But right now, it just looks really great for us. I will say the next step. So we're going to sign it. I talked about this definitive agreement, this merger agreement. Again, even though we're bound together to work towards this, the actual, and they refer to it just like you would when you buy a house. They refer to it as a closing. That once all the paperwork is in place, and and we're satisfied that, and both boards are satisfied that it's progressed properly, then the deal will close. And when it closes, and our target date is for September 30th, so we can start the new fiscal year with a new holding company in place. Now, it's important to say the world doesn't change on October 1st. I mean, the only thing that changes would be the governance structure of where, instead of having MORC, which has its own holding company, and Easter Seals, which has its own, we'd have one holding company. So MORC would still exist with its own identifying numbers. Easter Seals Michigan would still exist with its own identifying numbers. All that stuff would remain in place. What will change is the governance. So we're going to be working over the summer, hopefully on, redeveloping new bylaws for the newly constituted board. The board itself we've agreed, and the boards have agreed, we're going to just literally put the MORC board members and the Easter Seals board members together. Nobody's going to lose a seat. They're all going to be offered a seat. There's been concern because the MORC board is smaller than the Easter Seals board. We want to make sure that folks with developmental disabilities are properly represented. That's been an important thing for everybody. There are different things that we're trying to put in place to make sure that that happens. So for example, the board will have an executive committee that's made up of a board chair, a board vice chair, a board secretary, and a board treasurer. And those 4 positions, we're committed to have 2 be appointed from the MORC board, from the Easter Seals board, so that there's balance on that executive committee, even though the board itself might be imbalanced. The other thing that we've agreed to is that there will be certain things that require a supermajority vote, meaning 2/3 vote, so that we don't get into a situation where one group feels like they're being bullied by the other group or that kind of thing. So these will be things like the adoption of the bylaws or require a supermajority vote. The hiring of a CEO would require a supermajority. Capital purchases or capital divestments would require a supermajority. So again, the idea though is for all of us is to come with solutions that everybody can get behind and that everybody is excited about. So there really is going to be, and what we want to get to a point of is there's less talk about MORC versus Easter Seals, or here's the MORC view and the Easter Seals view, and really get it to the point where it's like, well, this is our combined view, and this is where we think our community can be best served. So that will happen if all goes right. Like I said, targeting for September 30th. But this process, I said to somebody today, this is not going to be like a granite cliff where suddenly everything, the world changes on October 1st. Quite frankly, for most people, nothing will change. The staff will be the same staff. The case assignments will be the same case assignments. Everything's going to be like that. Over the course of probably maybe as much as 2-3 years, we're going to see some kind of this stuff's going to start to merge together. So some of the first things will be like, obviously, we're going to have to figure out a combined benefit package for our employees and make sure that the benefits are aligned. But that's not going to happen until January at the earliest, because we all have benefit contracts that run through December 31st. So again, October 1st, interesting, but that's not going to change. Benefits aren't going to change on October 1st. And then the same things as we get into different departments and operations. One of the first things that I think we think would be ripe for the first kind of really sort of merged department, if you will, is probably going to be our children's services. Easter Seals deals with kids with emotional disturbance and autism. We deal with kids with autism and intellectual disabilities. So we think that it makes sense to start to combine those, will make sense to start to combine those things relatively early on. But, as I reminded people, we have specific contracts to provide services for people with disabilities that aren't going to go away, and they're not going to fundamentally change, and we're still going to require 100% effort on those folks. So it would be inconceivable to me that people would be abandoning the process. As a matter of fact, it would be the opposite. It would be that things would be enhanced and that there would be greater opportunities for people and greater chances. So like I said, this is a process. I said less a granite cliff, more of an ooze, kind of as things kind of come together that way. So now I will be quiet, Zach, and if people have specific questions, I can answer. I'm happy to, but no, we don't know everything yet. We're still, it's an emerging thing, so don't know all the answers yet. And I mean, I got employees asking me, which health plan are we going to be on next January? I have no idea. We're not there yet. So, but anyways, I will be quiet for a minute.
Thank you very much. It's really great to hear that things are going well, and the September 30th target date's great too. And again, I think it's comforting for the membership to know that things shouldn't change immediately. There shouldn't be the October 1st, all of a sudden their support coordinator changes and they're, you got new people calling them and knocking on the door. I know for me, that's been the number one question that I've been getting asked by parents, guardians, is that, what happens to my support coordinator? Am I going to get someone who works on the mental illness side and they're clueless? And I know our first conversation that we had, you had said that no one's losing a job forced to move except you. I think is what you said. You were like, I'm the only one leaving.
Yeah, we've got the combined organization. MORC has 285 employees. Easter Seals has 515, and between us, we've got 100 openings between the two organizations. So no, this isn't like some kind of a deal where we're trying to pay people out or we're trying to save money. And again, to whose benefit? We don't. We want to be efficient in what we do, but we're not into this because somehow Liz Bauer's going to make $10 million because of this merger. I mean, it's like it's not like that. It just doesn't work that way. So
finally getting the payout.
Mission.
I guess I had a question, Dennis. Maybe I missed it. You said both agencies are strong, with the finances. But maybe I missed it. But why are you merging?
Exactly. Exactly. Great question.
Well, again, it comes back to John. It comes back to what I said earlier. It's about the mission. It's about strengthening the mission. It's about bringing in different resources. That are currently. You would have to jump out of the one organization to get the resources of the other organization, or we have to buy them from each other. Like psychiatry is a great example of that. So Easter Seals has a strong psychiatric program, as you would expect, because they deal with people with mental illness. MORC has, at last count, probably about 30% of the people we serve have some kind of psychiatric need. And we have a really difficult time finding psychiatrists that are experienced and have a willingness to work with people with intellectual disabilities. It's really been a challenge. And we've hired headhunters, we've done all these kinds of things. So one of the things that we've had to do is reach out, separate and apart, has nothing to do with the merger. We have been reaching out to Easter Seals to say, can we buy some psychiatry services from you? So and they have, but quite frankly, we're paying more for psychiatry services from Easter Seals than we get reimbursed for those. So that's number one. Number two is their medical director, Jeff Ganay, is a psychiatrist, and he is also the chief of psychiatric residency for William Beaumont, Oakland University. And he has a passion for working with people with intellectual disabilities because he spent, a good part of his beginning in his career in the Air Force, and he worked with families who had kids with disabilities and who needed psychiatric care. So he has a passion for this. And, so again, what we're looking at this as like, well, this could be great because now he can help guide, psychiatric residents through a rotation with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and try to work that side of the program. It's something that has, quite frankly, lacking. And we've talked about this. So the promise here is, or the hope is that by combining the two organizations, it's going to make those kind of collaborations easier. That's not a guarantee. I'm not telling you that, that the world is going to be suddenly magically wonderful, on October 1st. But I think it combines the resources of the two organizations, and it's kind of what I talked about before. That we've already identified, or people have identified, self-identified, not even with any kind of input from management, opportunities where, gosh, if I, have somebody on my caseload who's got an intellectual disability and a psychiatric disorder, it would sure be great to be able to call across the hallway to a colleague and say, hey, what do you think about this? As opposed to doing a formal referral out. And the same thing on their side. They've said, look, we've got people with intellectual disabilities that are identified as primary psychiatric disability. It would be great to know that there are resources available within the same organization that could help with that. So that's what it is. Is there some kind of absolute thing there? No, there really isn't.
I have a quick question about the clinical service side of things. Do you see any changes for people that are currently getting, OT supports or speech language pathology, anything along those lines?
Well, again, my hope is that we're going to actually be able to strengthen it. And they'll tell you, Easter Seals will tell you that they are not as strong in some of those services as MORC is. So, in the same respect that that they're stronger in terms of psychiatric care, we're stronger in terms of some of those clinical services. Speech and language and OT are great examples. So I not only don't see a diminishment in those things, I see this as an opportunity to be able to potentially strengthen. I really do, because I think we're going to have a broader group of people that we're working with.
Great.
Well, Dennis, I'm sure others share the same. When first heard about the merger, it was a surprise, but honestly, the way that you're going about it, it's very, you're doing it in a slow progression and a very organized fashion. And I just see it, eliminating duplication, and making it more efficient, and enhancing the services for those that you support. So I'm excited for you and excited for the organization the two of them to come together.
Thanks, Rosemary. And make no mistake. We will make mistakes, and but hopefully we'll have enough self-awareness that we can correct on them. I think that the core services, though, are going to remain exactly as they are. There's really no ambition or intention or motivation to change them. So those core services that people are receiving, they should count on the fact that they'll continue to receive them. No, I've gotten that question from staff. Does this mean I have to be cross-trained on substance abuse? I don't want to work with people with substance abuse. No. Look, if you're a social worker and you're trained on folks with developmental disabilities and you love that population and they love you, great. You've got every opportunity. I will tell you this. I just lost a psychologist just last week, really great, a really good one. And, and the reason was, is she said, I really don't have an opportunity here to do group therapy. And I miss that. And I want to do more, more kind of group. And, but I also love the folks that I'm working with developmental disabilities. Okay. If you would have hung on for 6 months, maybe we could have made that accommodation for you. Maybe we could have had you continue your work with people with developmental disabilities, and also then start taking on groups, with folks with behavioral health disorders. And what a great opportunity. And then people don't have to make that kind of career choice, and they don't have to say, in order to get this, I have to literally leave MORC and go somewhere else. I can literally stay with the new organization, which, by the way, I didn't mention. The new organization name that we've decided on is Easter Seals MORC. So it's both names are going to be preserved in the new company. It's not like one's going to be subsumed by the other. We're going to maintain that kind of equal footing thing, and that's kind of how we're looking at it.
Well, and, I only liken it to, when I was working at MORC as a parent support partner, we did the MORC Roadshow. We had different vendors, if you were, that were service providers that all came, and we were doing it virtually. through COVID. And there were so many people at that table that all were doing the same service. And they, you know, for the parents listening, the families was like, well, why do I go to that provider versus that provider? You know what I mean? They're all companies. So it just makes great sense. You know, you're both very strong in the services that you provide. And, you know, I think it's a win-win.
I thank you. I hope so. You know, I mean, and you know, but here's AMORC's role in this whole thing, right? Is to make sure that we're staying tracked in the right direction and that we're not distracted. So that there is a valuable and important role for AMORC in this whole discussion, because we want to make sure that Zach knows he can call me. We're gonna do more to introduce the AMORC to the larger group, but please know that it's vitally important. So if we're getting things wrong and we're not, like, you're hearing things that don't kind of resonate with you, let us know. And especially now, as we're starting to put together, I like to talk in analogies. So like my analogy for the staff is this is like kind of when you're making Jello. Okay, so you decided you're making orange Jello, but right now what you got is a bowl of hot orange water, right? So if you want to add the little marshmallows in there, or you want to put those little orange slices in, this is the time to do it. Wait now. Don't wait until it's ready to serve and then decide to put that stuff in. So this is a great time for feedback. This is a great time to have your voices heard and to let everybody know what your concerns are, what things you like that you're hearing, what things you don't like. I mean, this is a great time. That's why I was so happy to get the opportunity to talk to you.
I'd just like to say that I think this is a very wise move. And the reason is you've really worked to bring the missions into sync. So it's all about mission. And the end result will be a comprehensive service that can meet more needs of an individual than the single one or the other by itself. And so I think that's from just a service available to somebody with a disability. And believe me, many people with a developmental disability have a psychiatric disability or a substance use disorder. People are not just one thing, they're comprehensive. The second thing I think about this merger that is brilliant is it will create a larger organization that will be in a better position to be a player in the changing structure of mental health disability services in Michigan. There's, I don't know how much talk people have made about, the various legislative proposals and stuff. That's where I spend most of my time. But it could come about that organizations will be responding to requests for proposals to provide services if all, things would go certain ways. And the combined organization, with its array of staff, with its comprehensive service, will be in a much better place to be a player. So I applaud the effort that the boards have made to work together, and that Brent and Dennis have made to make it knit. So that just from one person.
Janice, you're merging with Easter Seals of Michigan, who covers the whole state.
Yes.
So if you have someone, at the top of the state or something who has intellectual disabilities, at the moment, MORC isn't going to be working with those people.
Yeah, I mean, but Randy, I mean, here, I'll give you a great example of this, and Liz will remember this. We embarked on what turned out to be the world's worst timed marketing campaign in April of 2020. We had arranged for, actually in February, we arranged for like kind of a statewide billboard program, just an awareness program, to let people know about MORC. So you all remember what happened at the end of March of 2020. People quit driving. So, again, we had these great billboards up. And I'll tell you, we got calls from Wood TV on the west side of the state because people were really excited about, is MORC coming over to Grand Rapids? And the answer was no, it was just an awareness campaign. But now Easter Seals literally has a Grand Rapids office. So if the combined organization, if somebody were to reach out to us that way and say, hey, we're really interested in MORC services, we instantly have, the answer is going to be flat out no. It's going to be, okay, well, let's see how we can make this work. And, so I do think we can broaden our reach. Obviously, one of the things that MORC is well known for and has really made its mark is in the training area. We are just, to let you know, we're hosting this summer the General Teaching International Conference. We've got people coming in from Canada, from Iceland, from Europe, coming to Ann Arbor. And it's hosted by MORC. And now with our new partnership with Easter Seals, we're going to be able to, they're already signed on as sponsors, independent of the merger and things like that. These are fabulous opportunities, I think, to show what we can do and how we can help people and demonstrate a different way than maybe most folks think about.
I frankly don't much care about all these people's birthdays.
I believe is that Danny on the phone? Did you have a question?
Great aunt's birthday on a specific day is really not of interest to me.
Danny, is that you on the phone? Can you hear me? Okay.
It took up too much time.
Danny, I know you're on the phone. I'm going to mute you just for right now. It seems like you're in another conversation. I'll unmute you in just 1 second. Yeah, and I want to jump on that too. I think so. I'm really lucky to be a part of the GTI committee, and one of the things we were discussing in our last meeting was the interest of the Easter Seals employees, and it's I think anyone here, it's wild the idea that gentle teaching isn't just coursing through your veins as a natural part of service provision. It kind of blew my mind. They were like, a lot of the folks, of course, they're exhibiting the pillars and all of those things we want to see, but just to not have really been grounded in it the way that I think people of a MORC culture have been. It was exciting to me, and again, it kind of a kick in the gut in terms of how much I've taken for granted growing up in the MORC's training department and working with all those amazing people. And that was another thing I do want to highlight for folks on the call. When we first spoke, that was kind of the area that I was kind of questioning you, I think, the most on was, so what happens? How, I would love to see the center be brought back into the fold officially. I know that it's still always been there. And one of the things that you had mentioned at the time that I do want to highlight was, like you just said, both organizations are financially in the best spots they could be in, and I think that timing is really important too. That it doesn't, from an outside perspective, doesn't look like, oh my gosh, we're in an awful spot, we got to grab onto something. It's great to know that both organizations are healthy, and I'm going to continue to advocate that gentle teaching, training, all those things maintained, because as somebody, again, an 18-year-old growing up in the system of MORC training, I still have long-lasting friendships with the people in the training department, and all throughout MORC. But it's so important for the direct care professionals that they get that training specifically for folks in the IDD sector. So thanks. So I'm gonna unmute you, Danny.
I had an interesting conversation with Dana Lassenby from OCHN, who is a former MORC employee, and she was reflecting on the fact that she went through the general teaching training and 20 years ago, and she says, I still think about that almost every single day. I mean, I think about when I have things that are people who are having a difficult time, or even raising my kids and things like that, I still think about MORC's general teaching training. It just really resonates with people and sticks with people. And again, back to this idea that Zach, with the whole international conference. I mean, this stuff is powerful. It resonates, and
I don't know if we can really.
We need to be able to capitalize on that and to expand. This is a great opportunity to expand that mission.
Definitely.
I had a question about the Futures Foundation. Will they remain the same?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the Futures Foundation, John, is its own 501c3.
Right. Yes.
The Futures Foundation is bound to MORC through its bylaws. I've been having these conversations with their leadership team. I hope so. I don't see there's no reason in the world why they can't continue their mission of fundraising and providing for individual needs for people with intellectual disabilities as they've done for years. I think they plan to do that. It's going to have to be as the new entity, kind of takes shape and formalizes. They will then the question will be reflected back to them. All right, do you want to maintain the same linkages, with Easter Seals MORC that you did with MORC? I think they will, but I can't answer that question for them. I mean, it's something that they're going to have to undertake and decide. But certainly, they've been a great partner, and we want them to be a partner with the new entity.
Great. I'm going to try unmuting Danny one more time to see if she has a question or comment. Danny, can you hear us?
Oh, he takes a Zoom course.
Okay, we'll move on. Any other questions or comments for Dennis?
Randy here again. Approximately how many people does MORC serve and Easter Seals serve?
That's a great question, Randy. So, because people will ask me all the time, they go, well, which organization is bigger? And I'm like, well, by using which metric, because it's different. So MORC serves approximately 5,000 people. All right, that's combined between our DD program and our My Choice program. It's just under 5,000. Easter Seals, nominally has about 15,000 people. But remember that most of the people who come to Easter Seals, there are some that have long-term care needs, but most of them come there for episodic care. So if somebody is struggling with depression or they're struggling with alcohol abuse, I mean, they may be tracking well for a while and then kind of need, to come in for, tune up, whatever. So they have more people that they nominally serve, but from a budget standpoint, MORC has more revenue because people, our folks, as you know, their needs aren't going to go away after a month or two, or they're not going to, remediate and then they have more people that they serve, but MORC's services are much more intensive, so and much more persistent. So there are differences. We had to do, for example, Michelle Neubauer had to do a little bit of an instruction, if you will, to Brent Worth, because they don't understand why we need somebody full-time doing recipient rights responses. They don't get that. And I go, well, look, you might have 15,000 people, but we probably have 20 times more recipient rights issues that we have to deal with. And it's because we have people in dependent living situations. If somebody, for example, on the midnight shift forgot to give somebody their Ducalax, they have to write that up. It has to go through the recipient rights process and things like that. It's a good thing, but ultimately, if somebody's living on their own and and they're for the most part managing their own mental illness with a little bit of assistance, they're not going to write up something like that. They're just not. It's not going to be the same. So these are the kinds of differences that we're exploring with each other as well. So
where is Easter Seals of Michigan kind of corporately located? Is it Southeast Michigan?
Their corporate headquarters are in Walton in Auburn Hills, right near Updike Road.
Got it.
And they have offices in Flint, They have offices in Grand Rapids, as I mentioned. They've got offices in Southfield. I think they're they're opening an autism clinic in Wall Lake, I think. I mean, so it's kind of, they've got that. And the other thing about it is that if for a lot of our folks participate in the Miracle League in the summertime, and that again is sponsored by and affiliated with Eastern Sales, Michigan. So they have kind of taken that under their wing, and you know, it's a great thing. If you've never been to a Miracle League game, I'm telling you, you're missing something. It is a hoot, and you know, yeah, I think it's a really, you know, terrific thing. And most of the folks who participate in that are folks with intellectual disabilities. So.
This is my last question, and then I'm going on mute, Dennis. The $20 million net margin, has that grown steadily, or did it take a big jump in the last year or two?
It's just grown steadily, Randy. It's something that we've worked on really hard for the last 20 years, honestly. I mean,
good for you. I'm muting.
Great, thanks. Any other questions for Dennis? Comments?
Well, I just heard you say that Scott gave Vista Sales $50 million donation.
Huh? Mackenzie Scott, 15.
Yeah.
1-5.
15.
1-5.
Okay, I thought you said 50. Okay.
Mackenzie Scott, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was last year. They got that last year.
Right, I remember that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Great.
I thought, John, you were gonna give us 50 million.
I'll loan you 15 million.
Oh, okay.
I'm curious what you're margining there.
Yeah, really.
Try one more time. Danny, one last time, just in case. I don't want to keep you on mute if you're trying to get.
Cake stand. It's gorgeous.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, Dennis, you're more than welcome to stick around. We're going to blaze through the rest of this. I've got a date at 7 o'clock with the Boston Bruins, so I got to make sure to get off here by then. Let's see. But thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me. And certainly, if you have any questions, you can ship them right to me. Send them to Zach. That's fine. And you know, we'll okay.
It was great. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Take care. Bye-bye. All right. So let's get.
Before we get started, Zach.
Yeah, please.
Did Boston win on the Monday?
We don't need to talk about that. I appreciate your concern.
All right, moving on.
Nah, we don't need to discuss that at all.
Series. Very good.
All right. So just going down the agenda then, we got the AMORC membership announcements. The things that I want to cover real quick. I'm sure everyone's sick of hearing about the electronic membership system, but it is the way of the future, folks. As our membership gets younger, we have to do this. We will not get members, future generation members, if we go, you got to mail in a check. I had to go to the bank. I think when we closed on our house, or no, it wasn't the house. Anyway, something I had to go to the bank and get a test sheet. I didn't have checks. I haven't had checks for 10 years, I don't think. So it is the way of the future. But I've also tried to really be clear and transparent with everyone that I don't want to leave anyone behind. I know change is really difficult. So I have a commitment to make, which is, as people's memberships are coming up, because I see that people are kind of coming in and out all the time, not just at one point in the year. So as people's membership are coming up, they're getting in touch with me saying, okay, how do we do this? What can we do? Or they're just mailing checks through, which is again an option, but I really would like to steer away from that. And that's kind of why we didn't do the traditional mailers this year. In the future, though, my commitment is, I would like to, in an effort to make sure no one's left behind, if you're struggling or confused, or you're just getting anxiety about doing the electronic system, I'm happy to meet with you, with every single one of our members. It's a lot of people, and that's what I've got to figure out a better system, or a best system for scheduling this, but I'm very happy to meet in person to walk through it with you to relieve some of that stress. Change is hard. I totally acknowledge that, but unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast and the nature of the times. We got to move forward. So I'm very happy if you yourself are struggling with the membership system, and it's a 2 login thing. We did that because PayPal is secure. I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving any of your valuable information with the web provider as the security. I felt much better about the PayPal. I know some people are like, oh God, another account, I can't do it. I mean, it's just for right now, that's going to be our system. It is the most secure. I would not feel right if we put your credit card information and all of your details in a non-secure setting. So
is it up and running now?
Yeah, it's running. I have a YouTube video, excuse me, walking through exactly how to do it. I'm probably going to do another one when I get some time to shorten it up a little bit. And there's one portion of the video that is kind of a it's no longer a problem. So yes, there's a YouTube video to walk through it. It is really easy. The credit card portion, if you already have a PayPal account, you just have to log in and it's fine. If you don't, you just have to create a username and password. You never have to go back in there again if you don't want to. You can cancel actually through the website proper. So there really is no need to even go back there again. And there's really not a need other than just tracking membership and contact details and the kind of back end numbers of things. There's really not even a need to log into the AMORC membership other than setting it up one time. So it is set up to be a subscription-based thing, and it does prompt you that it will be doing like annual payments automatically. But yeah, easy enough to cancel, no worries there. The one thing that I didn't mention through any of my emails, I don't think, because I think I found out after we launched it, we can take membership dues over the phone. It would still be through PayPal, but it would be an alternative to someone who's just absolutely against creating another PayPal account. I would basically just be inputting an invoice through PayPal, and that would be calling me directly. So my number to anyone watching this in the future on YouTube or through email, 248-249-2938. Feel free to call me if you want to do that over the phone or troubleshoot. I'm the IT department too. So yeah, we'll work that out. But I'll probably put out some sort of an open calendar that people can book themselves on for me to come out to their place. Or again, you can call and we can just figure out a time that I can meet you somewhere out and about or at your home in order to help kind of get this set up, because it really does make things so much easier on the back end. It compiles reports and everything that you can just put together and look at membership change over, year over year and things. So and obviously like tracking the finances and stuff as well is made easy too.
Zach, if I go to pay my bill for the next year, does it tell me that your membership is good through June of 2022, or is it kind of mysterious like it used to be?
No. So it will, whenever you go in, and this is kind of, I did a poor job of explaining, this is kind of where the problems are coming up for people, is people remember when they paid their annual due. So they're re-upping then. So it's not like, oh, we launched the system and now everybody's flooding it trying to get their membership updated, because their memberships are still active and whatnot. But it will email you. That is your membership date. It will email you a receipt. It'll give you everything. It operates just like a normal online storefront. And then it will also, I think I have it set up for, is it 30 days or maybe even 60 days reminder when it's coming up, so that you don't just get a mystery charge and go, what the hell is that? You'll know ahead of time that it's that your subscription, it'll be called a subscription, will be ending sooner or auto renewing, sorry.
So I'm almost sure that John got me to pay more than once in a year. So it was a cool system.
I try. No, PayPal is real easy. It's very, very simple to use. I just had a question. When we renew our membership through PayPal, you get that information, Zach?
Yes, yeah, yep. It's a really great system. I have it. Yeah, I won't get into the nerdy details, but yeah, it notifies me when somebody signs up. It notifies me the level of membership, and then I've got also a screen that I can see that breaks down all of the contact details on the back end. And like I said, it's really easy to pull reports from and look at numbers and growth and things like that. And of course, right now it's all kind of nonsense because it's just kind of sprinkling in. But in the future years, I think it's going to be a really, really useful tool that we'll look back on and go, oh my God, all of the work that Dan had done previously, amazing how he tracked all of that through Excel sheets. But
And he has to deposit it too.
Yeah, and I like the idea of clicking the button and it does it all for me.
Yeah.
Time is very valuable. So yeah, it's a great system for the future, but I totally understand that it's a kind of a scary leap into the tech well. But
So
yep.
Zach, Judy Aaron.
Hi, Judy.
Did you say this will be a renewal subscription automatically, or you can only pay? Can you pay 1 year at a time?
It is an automatic renewal. The reason why I decided to do that, and we can, I'm very happy to adjust that if the membership feels better about that. My kind of initial thought and the reason why I had it set up that way was just ease of use. Again, the change, you literally go in there one time and then you don't have to worry about it, especially when you look at our membership numbers year over year. It's only grown, and we have a number of people that have been a part for 30, 40 years. So I don't know that there's necessarily a lot of people year to year going, well, I'm going to bail, or enough, I should say, that are bailing that we need to do.
Zach, you got to remember, you've got a lot of old people, and they may not be here next year.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
You don't want it automatically withdrawn unless I'm notified ahead of time.
Yeah, and again, I can maybe look into if there's a way to option it. It's been a while since I set it up, and I apologize, but there might be a way to option it to add like a tick box or something, and I'd be more than happy to add that. The flip side of that is I do have really good, and PayPal's really good about this, especially for what they consider new businesses, is the refund policy and not getting hit with charges. So in the example you've given, if someone passes and their next of kin goes on to cancel subscriptions, or there's a random charge, it would just be a phone call, and we could revert that back, no problem, and cancel it all. I would also hope that as a membership, and as we continue to meet regularly and get again, keep the AMORC spirit alive, I would hope that we would know if something like that happens, and I would, as on the administrative end, be able to get in there and avoid any sort of issue in terms of like canceling accounts and things.
Zach, I'm not sure if this is. Oh, go ahead, Judith. I'm sorry.
Nobody would know in my case that I've even subscribed to it. So it would show up, my estate would get charged. I mean, I just don't understand how that would work. You're going to have enough to do rather than just cancel an AMORC subscription.
Yeah, and I can look into that for sure, and we can see what we can do.
Sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Good question. Quick question. This may not be practical. The Act of Oakland County has something called a lifetime member, and you pay a certain amount of money to become a lifetime member. Is that something that may be feasible or not feasible, Raymond?
Yeah, I mean, I think feasible for sure. Logistically, we would just decide on what that price would be, and then you would just do basically just a donation. Sorry, I don't need to get into the weeds about how logistically we would do it, but yes, I absolutely think that's feasible, and that's again something we can discuss and move forward with. That's a great idea. Any other questions about the subscription system? If it's kind of, if you have ideas specifically to your case, we can take that offline and we can talk about that another time. But generally speaking, if you have any questions or concerns, now is the time to kind of check those. Okay, moving on, I'm gonna move on. So the website update, just in a general sense, I did add an events calendar. So I'm doing my very best updating that with any sort of coffee hours, town halls, meetings that pertain to the IDD community, specifically Oakland and Macomb, but I am trying to keep my eyes. I know we have a couple Ingham members, and I'm trying to do my best to cover everyone's area, but it is tricky. We have nearly 400 members at this point. But yeah, so if you want things specifically posted on there, feel free to email those to me, or give me a call and let me know about them. It takes no time at all to chuck them up there, and it's got Zoom links, it's got everything on there. I put on our agenda the second we kind of finalized it, so that will be updated regularly. I also added.
When will that be available, Zach?
What was that?
website? When will the website be available?
Oh, the website's up and running. Yeah, I will.
Okay.
It's
Do you have a link to that?
Yeah, I just put it in the chat. It's real easy. Unfortunately, there's a long story with me battling to get amorc.com, and it did not
Yeah,
work.
I
I think
understand
somebody's
that.
got a
Yeah.
debt against the Rosicrucians, and they are just holding that down.
Yeah.
But it is the amorc.com. And again, as I
Okay.
mentioned, as we explore name changes, it'll just be a domain change name. We won't have the website won't change, memberships, nothing will change in that regard. It will strictly be a
You say
domain
.com or .org?
.com.
.com. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I did add a donate button, which has been great. We've had a few donations, and those letters are going to be going out next week. The taxable letters. I also added an announcements page, and this is going to be, it's basically going to be the same things that are going to be coming through email, some of the Facebook things that are pertinent. And the reason why I have the announcements page is because and Mike Hardy, who handles our the newsletter now, he stepped in for John. He requested this be done. It's a great idea, so he can actually link to our page instead of just things that are like flyers that we're emailing around. He can't link and then put out through the newsletter. So this way, it's kind of a dual purpose.
Nice.
The next thing I have that I really am going to have to lean heavily on membership for is I would really like to, and Danny Firestein, who's on the call, I do have her muted because it sounded like she was on a another phone call or something, but she was just mentioning this as well. Where great minds think alike, I guess. But I'd like to have a resource page, and I know that almost every organization, MORC has a resource page, OCHN has, every organization does. But I would like to instead of just looking at what they're doing and mimicking that, because we can always just point people to, to those resources. For us, I would really like it to be membership led. Or if someone notices these other organizations don't have a great hub for a specific thing, a specific topic, I would like to be the ones that that have that landing page. So please, any membership, if you have ideas for resource pages, please put them into an email. They can be broad, they can be specific. Obviously, if you have very specific, this was a useful page for me in my situation. Again, I'm going to use Danny because we've been talking a fair bit about resources and things like that. Guardianship issues. If that is something that you're struggling with right now and you found a great resource, please send me that resource and let me know what it's pertaining to, and we'll start a resource page and we'll be able to adjust that in the future as needed. The next thing I have, sorry, let me take one step back. Are there any questions about those website changes? It's all pretty basic. Okay, I'll move on then. One thing too, and Rosemary has been a great champion for this since I came on board, and it's very much needed a thing, and I know that COVID kind of threw a wrench in everything. But AMORC as a social group, or the parents in the past being able to connect to one another. Oh, sorry, just Donate Association. Yes, and yeah, Rosemary, I just saw your question.
Just more of a comment.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll have a look. I'm trying to, my brain right now, I'm trying to go through and figure out where it's pulling that from. Yeah, I'll have a look at that. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
Which could be confusing. I mean,
Sure.
we talked about the name thing, but yeah, I just checked out the website and hit donate, but sorry.
Oh, no, it's all good. Yeah, and yeah, I appreciate it. But yeah, one of the idea is that the AMORC was a great social meetup for parents and family members to discuss common shared experiences and current struggles, and being able to pass down that information and mentorship and whatnot to the younger parents. And I keep kind of brainstorming what that would look like moving forward. I do think, and like I was saying, Rosemary, you've been a great champion for the need for this. The issue I have with being the one to generate or start the conversation is I'm not a parent with, I'm just an advocacy or an advocate ally. So to me, it feels very disingenuous for me to be the one telling you what it should look like. So I would, that's another thing that I would really like to hear back from the membership, in terms of, what does that look like? Is it a Zoom meeting bi-weekly or monthly, where it's just kind of a free-flowing, no agenda, just Thirsty Thursday kind of thing? You bring a drink and hang out at the computer and chat with other parents in similar situations, or I don't know. I'm just curious, like, what that would look like, and I'd like to really get moving on something like that, because, like, to your point, Rosemary, in the past, it's deeply needed and missing.
Well, and time is a concern right now, as far as discussion, and obviously, there was a lot that Dennis covered in that, but I think, I can, if I can just ask with a question, our membership is how many?
379, 380 at this point.
And here we sit again with only 9 people on a call.
Right.
So we're not reaching the membership, and I don't really know what members want the value of the membership to be. I'm sure they appreciate, you're doing a great job on doing the weekly updates and that, but certainly this is not an opportunity. Our meetings, as they've been going, we've been dealing a lot with logistics and kind of reframing AMORC to look a little different than what it was in the past. So, and COVID and everything. Yeah. So, you can't, we really haven't gotten going on anything, but, I think it's a discussion, or maybe do the monkey survey. What would people like? And honestly, a long time challenge has been, and that even goes to like New Gateways, meetings during the day, meetings during the evening. Well, when, if you're taking care of your loved one, do you have time to sit for a meeting, and as it is, now this is like an hour and a half, coming up there by the 7 o'clock Bruins game. But,
please.
Just saying, but, that's a long time for meetings. So,
Yeah.
If you want it to be a social thing, it should maybe be a separate opportunity, maybe, but I just know in the work that I did as a parent support partner with MORC, there were a lot of people who are very isolated and really are looking for that connection. And Liz, I'm sure that you would echo in, there were, that's what meetings used to be a lot of, people getting together and sharing their stories with each other, and that's not really happening now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion?
When it's a thing and you've just gotten a diagnosis and, you're looking for support from other families who are in like roles, it's really important, and also share your history of how you got to where you are, perhaps with other families. So, that's just kind of a separate thing for me, and I think it's a valuable resource.
Maybe just a suggestion, maybe a flyer that's posted someplace, social media, that rather than email, maybe something that looks nice as a flyer announcing the social group. Along with the regular AMORC meetings, maybe a flyer would be helpful.
Yeah, sure.
Just
we
a
can.
thought.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, Rosemary, to your point, it's a totally separate thing. I guess in terms of keeping it on the agenda here is maybe you and I should just get together and really just nail down some dates on some ideas of just, let's just do it, pull the trigger, and, we'll have a couple meeting spots over the next.
Yeah, you throw it out there, whether it be social media, a lot of the younger families, that is their, avenue to communicate with one another. So that's just kind of goes back to, you're dealing with a different audience nowadays. So, and, it is very difficult to have, find caregivers to watch your child so you can go to a meeting, all those kinds of things. So virtual really seems to be a wonderful thing, in my opinion, when it comes to this. So, I would probably still want to promote it that way, but we can have a sidebar. That sounds good.
Okay, cool. And Kim, I did just see your comment, and I think that that's a great thing, a great idea, having specific topics to gauge interest in specific areas. So I'll move on to the kind of legislative announcements, because this kind of ties into, I think, what I maybe had mentioned in an email previously. But so first up is the Senate Bill 597, 598. This is the kind of remodeling of the entire system through the state. And so far that has continued to not come up. I did meet with, why am I drawing a blank on his name right now? Sowerby, Representative Sowerby, and he was saying that there's very little support needed, so they're probably likely just going to continue to not vote on it. So it's not enough support for the vote to pass, so they're not going to vote on it anytime soon. It looks like. I do check quite frequently their agendas, the Senate and the House agendas, and it's never popping up. So, Liz, if you have anything to add to that, that would be greatly appreciated.
Well, no, I think Senator Shirkey is laying low right now. He doesn't have the votes, because if he did, he'd run it. My bigger concern about him is it's his last term. And the same is true of Mary Whiteford, who has the alternate bills in the House. Hers are much more friendly, and we've been meeting with her very regularly. And but I do worry about Shirkey and the lame duck session of the legislature after the November elections, when it clearly, to my mind anyway, he has a job waiting for him with the insurance companies. When I watch them in the hearings, it looks quite friendly. So it's really his personal passion. It's the reason he never put it in the mental health committees. It's in government and all of that. So his is waiting for the day he can count the votes. So the November election will be incredibly important, because if the Democrats can build any more votes, the chances are then they'll have enough to overrun, or prevent a veto overrun. I think Whitmer would veto it, but they could get the 2/3 to override or veto. So we need to make sure about that. And then, the state budget is good. They've put a lot of money in for mental health and things like that. So that's good. And Mary Whiteford's bills, oh gosh, they're all sitting behind me. I meet with the Alliance of People every Friday morning about that. And they're working very, very hard and very thoughtfully, and bringing a lot of labor support to the table. So we'll just see what happens. The whole thing is being driven, by Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, that does want to, as they say, integrate mental health care and behavioral health care. And where you can see a model in Michigan is the pilot projects with the My Health Link, which is operational right now in Macomb County, Wayne, the Upper Peninsula, and 8 counties in Southwest. And there's some, how that's going is prelude to how these kinds of changes might affect things. It's why I'm really happy to see the merger coming between Easter Seals and MORC. I think there is everything to gain, and I don't see any losses. I work with Easter Seal all the time because I'm on the mental health court as the along with the treatment team, and Easter Seal is our go-to place for our probationers. Very, 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 very pleased with their program. And I was just thinking, for things that might be interesting to AMORC, you might want to invite, and I'm going to block on her name right now, but I can email it to you, Zach.
Yeah,
Well, the mental health court, we invited a person from Easter Seal to come and tell us about their services, the whole array of services, because we use so many. at the court. The presentation was absolutely fabulous. I have her PowerPoint. I'll send it to you, Zach, with her name. And it might be interesting for AMORC to just invite, not that you're in the merger or anything, just for like, I want to know some more stuff, to invite her to tell you about their array of services. I think it would just be interesting. Yep.
Yeah, great. No, thank you. If you can pass it along, that'd be fantastic.
Well, that's enough of me, but okay. Thanks for all you're doing. Thanks for getting us so techie up to date.
I appreciate the support, man. It's been a challenge. Yeah, no, thank you for that. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, you're doing a fabulous job, Zach.
Oh, thanks, John.
Really
Yeah, it means a lot coming from you guys. Okay, so two other things, and I will blaze through this because I realize that we are going on an hour and a half, and that is a very long time. But I thought, Dennis should not have had any sort of time constraints with his presentation and answers. So you just mentioned it. The mental health, or sorry, the state budget is including the $2.35 or is expected to, and which is great. There's good funding there. I would say in terms of advocacy efforts, I really like the approach that MALA is taking, which is there should be an additional $4 in terms of wages. That would bring that up to $18. So that would be, let me see, oh, I lost my number. Anyway, I'll probably send out a blast, a little bit of a breakdown of how Bob Stein has written up his piece. It's very few people can top their writing at MALA. But yeah, so I also think that's a great thing to support. And that kind of transitions to what I have listed as refocusing on our agenda. Like Liz was saying, I think that 597, 598, they kind of are what they are for the time being. And I think in terms of refocusing advocacy efforts, my two suggestions is number one, the DSP being, direct supports professional, being standardized in the occupational code. I think that's really important for moving forward and allowing our dedicated staff to get the respect they deserve and hopefully beyond just general respect to the general public, getting paid a respectable wage and not the poverty wages that we and they have all been working for many years. The flip side of that is quickly transition services because there's clearly a disconnect with younger parents. They don't really know the array of services or what services look like, or that they need to be advocating well before their children are 26. Then they leave the school system and they're just hit with a ton of, well, that's not how it works in the adult sector. So I think that really focusing on transition services, getting into schools and things like that if people have connections, and just discussing what it looks like and what the advocacy needs are in the adult sector as opposed to just where their children are at that point in time. With that said, Christine Burke through OCHN was kind enough, because I did bring this up through the CAC last month. She's going to send me the invite next time the OCHN group gets together with the schools. And I can't remember if she said it was monthly or quarterly, but it sounds like a good in for AMORC to maybe get some more members and just, again, kind of talk about the things that are affecting parents and guardians in the adult sector. Three last very quick things I've got before I'll open it up is the OCHN needs assessment was completed. They got 800 responses from their group, which is a 34% increase from last year, which if any of you have done your surveys through different groups within the sector, it's really difficult to get a good feel for polls and whatnot. So I was really happy to hear that they are getting feedback and they continue to get good reviews on their needs assessments and whatnot. The other thing is I'll send out this blast, and Dennis touched on it, is the General Teaching International conference is being held in Ann Arbor this year. It is August, I minimized my window. August, I think 16th through the 18th, I believe. It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I closed my window accidentally, but I'll send out the flyer if you haven't gotten those. I think it's great, and you know, sponsorships opportunities are there. I'm pretty sure we have a meeting tomorrow afternoon. I'm pretty sure most of the speakers are locked down, but it's a great conference. I was realizing last week that the last one I went to was the last time it was held here, which is 2012. It's been internationally held in the past, but it should be great. It's shaping up really good. That's going to be in Ann Arbor again in mid-August. Then the last one I've got here is, so everyone's aware, the USA Today, they started a consumer product review website called Reviewed that has accessibility categories. And so already the site is written about sensory-friendly clothing for kids and adaptive spoons, well, I guess adaptive utensils in general, foldable chairs, pill dispensers, and more is part of their accessibility category. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a resource. I appreciate that these things are popping up more and more, that people are able to review these things instead of like what we used to do at New Gateways. I remember we just order things that we thought would work well, and then you get it and you're like, oh, this thing's complete trash, and you waste all this money. You know, nonprofits, we're counting pens most of the time. We're not able to just throw away these equipment things that don't work out. So that's all from me. Does anyone have anything they want to talk about?
I just had a question. My daughter taught me that she says, and she's obviously younger than me, don't send me an email, send me a phone message.
A text?
I respond to that. And she said, send it to your real estate agent also. A phone message, don't send an email. I'm just throwing that out. Zach.
Oh, in terms of just like reaching out to people, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yes.
Yeah.
Sending a message to somebody. The younger people respond to phone messages versus an email, apparently.
Yeah, I've been doing a bit of research on those types of things too, thinking about what's the best way to, and really it's more in my day job sector than the disability realm, because just the age groups and whatnot. But yeah, text messaging is the number one method that young people prefer to communicate. Especially like actually phone calling someone is like the last thing anyone wants to do that's under 25. So I think that's a great thing.
I just want to say that all of a sudden you made me feel old, because I like email over a text. It gives me an opportunity to sit down, read it, think about it, and then respond.
We're just talking about younger people today.
I know.
I like email.
That's what I mean.
I agree with you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no,
Good.
I'm a text or email person myself. Yeah, it's I like being able to go back and reread things. I tend to multitask too much, and then I realize that I misunderstood. So anyway, but yeah, anything else anyone wants to bring to the floor before we log off?
Thank you, Zach.
No, I learned a lot. Thank you very much for the meeting.
No, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Liz, it was great to see you. Thanks for popping in. All right,
Hi, Nick.
guys.
Long time no see.
yeah, there you go.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye, guys.
Zach, when's the next meeting?
Oh, that is a great question. Let me pull up the website and see. I did put all of our meetings to the end of the year. I want to say it's August something. Thank you, Judith, for throwing that out there. Let's see, August 3rd. It's a Wednesday, 5:30 to 7 again. That's August 3rd. I will absolutely, when I do get a chance to put these notes together, I'll put that in the bottom. But I probably won't get these meeting minutes out. I'm actually going to Boston for their playoff games this weekend, so I'll probably get it out next week early. But yeah, thank you for calling me on that. Keep me honest, Judith. I appreciate it.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you guys.
To everybody on the call. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, have a good night, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.